So it looks like Modern Warfare 2 is about to get revealed to the whole world pretty soon. They already showed off the game to a select few people at this NFL event draft that was held in Vegas the other day, as you can see by this Instagram story. Now, I'm entirely sure that they allowed this to be leaked essentially as to drum up hype for the next COD, but it's only April at the time of me making this video, and that's pretty dang early as far as like when we start seeing and hearing things about the next Call of Duty. Usually that doesn't happen till like May or a little bit after, but as Vanguard is not doing so hot right now, and as far as we know, Vanguard is only going to have 5 seasons, it looks like they're genuinely trying to cut that game as short as possible as to bring in Modern Warfare 2 as quickly as they humanly can, which I don't blame them as far as like how people are enjoying Vanguard and the difference in hype between that and how people are anticipating Modern Warfare 2. But that being said, we're going to be talking about a ton of stuff that we have leaked and information we have regarding this year's Call of Duty, as they are setting the expectations and the bar pretty high, I must say, and they are very confident that this game is going to be not only the most advanced Call of Duty to date, and I quote them on that, but there's a lot they're doing genuinely different this year, and I'm serious when I say I'm actually excited for this stuff. So I'm heavily anticipating Modern Warfare 2, but I want to talk a lot about what they're doing with not only Warzone 2 evidently, but also their new DMZ mode and a lot of changes, or let's say readjustments, that are coming to multiplayer. And I guess that's where we'll start, is let's talk about some of the MP details for this upcoming game. Now, we do know that this is of course a clear sequel to Modern Warfare 2019, and in some sense will be a spiritual successor to that, so you can expect a lot of the mechanics and some of the feel of the game to be relatively the same. IW's always had that very classic like imprint in terms of how a COD game feels, so I would expect that to carry over, but there's also a lot changing in between Modern Warfare 2019 and this game, MW2. Before we continue any further, if you guys would like to be an absolute lad and drop a like on the video, if you're excited for Modern Warfare 2 and if you want to subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with the stuff, it would be very much appreciated. But anyways, now let's talk about multiplayer maps, and what's interesting is the structure of these maps evidently is going to be more classic 3-lane, relatively speaking, and in Modern Warfare 2019, while it still had its 3-lane maps, a lot of them didn't follow that structure pattern at all. I'm not talking any remakes that came to Modern Warfare, like the maps that it launched with that were brand new for that game, a lot of them didn't follow the 3-lane pattern, and it's almost an inverse of what we had with classic Modern Warfare, where MW2, the original, had a lot of maps that were not very 3-lane structure at all. I'm thinking things like Wasteland, these very like open-ended, seemingly almost random style of maps, and while these leaks currently seem to suggest that primarily they're going to be 3-lane maps, I can almost guarantee there's going to be its blend and its selection of these bit more open-ended maps. There's absolutely no way that's not the case, but predominantly expect it to be 3-lane as of right now. Now, let's talk a little bit about attachment selection as well. This was something I had small criticisms about Modern Warfare 2019 in the past, where I felt like the attachment system was cool, but it was a little bit too like unnecessarily complex and advanced for a arena style game. But it looks like that attachment system may be changing, or it may be being reused elsewhere, and I'll explain what I mean. But as far as like arena multiplayer goes, we may be returning to the more classic format of having a few but meaningful attachment selections. So in classic Modern Warfare 2, you were pretty much only ever able to put one attachment on your weapon, unless you had the bling perk, which allowed you to add another. So if you wanted a red dot and a grenade launcher, for example, you needed a perk to do that instead of just having a red dot. But in Modern Warfare, and I guess in just modern COD, we have like 40 different attachments for each selection. You can put like literally 8 or 10 attachments on your weapon, but the problem is most of them are just they have such minuscule differences between each other that it almost doesn't really matter in terms of attachments. Like you'll find your meta, you'll find the ones that are optimized the best, and you just won't touch any other attachment ever. So if they revert this and kind of go back to the classic formula where there's less attachments but they're more meaningful, I think that's an interesting idea for this game, and put into a modern Call of Duty context, that would be extraordinarily interesting to see. The more I think about it, at least for arena multiplayer, traditional COD, I would actually prefer that reverted attachment selection. I think in some sense less is more when it comes to that. However, in other modes like potentially Warzone or this DMZ mode we're going to talk about in just a second, maybe the modern weapon selection of attachments, like having the plethora of different things you can use, might actually be a better solution, but we'll have to wait and see how they handle that. Now, the same idea might also apply to perks, and maybe this is a subjective opinion, but I felt, especially in modern Call of Duty, that perks don't really matter all that that much, or they matter significantly less than they used to, because like in classic Modern Warfare 2, for example, you really felt the trade-offs running different perks. Like if you had commando versus not, there is a extraordinarily obvious change in your melee distance, for example, or just like being able to stay off the radar. You give up something and you get something great in return. The perks really had some weight to them, and I really haven't felt that weight in modern Call of Duty multiplayer, and I'm not sure what that is, but maybe they'll extend that kind of philosophy to the perk system as well. Now, this next part in regards to movement changes, take this with a grain of salt. This is a Reddit post allegedly leaking some changes for Modern Warfare 2, and the interesting thing in this post was the idea that they're going to be completely removing sprint out time, and this is basically, it would make sense if they do change the attachment selection as well, as a lot of the current attachments, let's say in Modern Warfare, are, you know, meant to ameliorate that stuff. But if they completely remove sprint out time and potentially even make it to where you can be aim down sights while sprinting, that sounds incredibly strange. I'm willing to give it a try, but it does sound kind of wild. We'll see how they handle that, but there might be some actual fundamental changes to movement and that sort of stuff. I've gone on record multiple times saying that I'm a big fan of the new movement system that you know, was introduced with Modern Warfare 2019's engine, and to by extension Vanguard a little bit, Cold War had it as well. I'm a big fan of that kind of movement, and if they expand and develop that further, I'm completely open to that. Although if they do revert the attachment system, then it's possible that they sort of scale it back when it comes to movement, or at least make some significant changes. But again, we'll wait and see on that one. Now let's shift over to talk a little bit about kill streaks. One of the things that classic Modern Warfare 2 was, you know, practically its defining feature was its egregiously overpowered kill streak selection, and I think that Modern Warfare 2019 actually got that pretty well. The kill streaks are genuinely fun, they feel powerful, and they feel rewarding when you get them, which can't be said about every single Call of Duty game. But if they really want to capture the spirit of what classic Modern Warfare 2 brought to the table, then I think it would be in their own best interest to make kill streaks perhaps even more powerful than Modern Warfare 2019's kill streaks. There's literally no way we get a Modern Warfare game that doesn't have a nuke kill streak, but besides that stuff, I would expect a lot of the classics to return, plus probably some new things that may be even more powerful than originally intended. I looked around but couldn't find any real hard evidence about the kind of kill streaks that will be in Modern Warfare 2, but expect a lot of the classics to return. You know, UAV will be in the game, nuke, I would assume like Harrier Strike, maybe even Predator Missile might make a return, stuff like that that are literally staples at this point, but perhaps we'll see things even more powerful or even more interesting than before. Now you can tell Infinity Ward is already up to something. They've completely deleted all their Instagram posts, they've blacked out their socials, and they've even posted this image and made it their Twitter banner. Apparently this is an image from the campaign, and this is actually depicting Ghost, which is extraordinarily interesting. There's not really much you can make out of this image, but this is our first like actual clear screenshot, if you want to call it that, of Modern Warfare 2, and it's also apparently, in terms of its branding and logo, is going to have the more green style. Apparently it was going to be blue originally, similar to the 2019 build, but they've shifted it to the classic Modern Warfare 2 green. Now we'll shift away from multiplayer for a second. Let's talk about the thing that everybody is wondering about, the DMZ mode for Modern Warfare 2. Now apparently, according to some leaks and specifically what Tom Henderson has said on Twitter, this mode has been in development for roughly 4.5 years, and I guess this is something that I've heard about previously as well. I know IW was working on a really big project that wasn't Warzone, but this was years back, and I kind of forgot about it. But apparently it's this DMZ mode, and I don't really know exactly what the finer details of this are, but it's going to be very similar to Escape from Tarkov if you've ever played that. If you haven't, I'll explain the idea really quickly. Basically in Tarkov, you can play as two different characters. You can be a scavenger, and you go and collect like raw materials to escape with, and then you can apply that to your main character, which is your PMC. And your main character, if you're playing him and trying to acquire materials and kill people and loot and gather their materials in game and escape with them, you keep everything. If you die, you lose everything. So the stakes are like ridiculously high. I will say the difference is Tarkov is extremely slow paced, and also the mechanics are going to be super intimidating for new players. It's like not really one of those games you can just jump into, but if Call of Duty is approaching this, I think they're going to make it a lot more accessible for, you know, the average gamer to approach this, because because Tarkov is just like it's got such a barrier to entry. I think that is one of the things that holds it back. It's great to watch for people who don't really understand it, but it really takes a long time to get into if you're very unfamiliar with the subject. But I think that this DMZ mode could be Tarkov, but just for a bigger, broader general audience that I think could be unbelievably fun. The format is not really a battle royale, but one of the ideas is to obviously be like the only one alive, or the idea is to survive and extract from a certain point. So I think a lot of those basics will probably apply to this DMZ mode, and this is something I cannot wait to see them actually reveal it and talk about it. But besides multiplayer and campaign, DMZ mode and everything else coming, it's going to be a pretty loaded package. And not only that, but Warzone 2 is apparently in development, and I guess this is them rebuilding the entire game from the ground up. I don't know a whole lot about like current and what Warzone is doing at the moment, and I haven't played it in a while, to be quite honest either, but if they're rebuilding Warzone just fundamentally, I'm definitely going to check it out again. And at the time of me making this video, the actual details on Warzone 2 are still quite thin. In fact, I feel like we kind of know more about the DMZ mode than we do Warzone 2, but we know the most about like campaign currently and multiplayer. But it's shaping up to be an excellent Call of Duty, and I'm unironically unbelievably excited for this year. I hope this year's Modern Warfare 2 is able to capture that really classic yet chaotic feel of classic MW2, and based on the branding and the things we know, and it's actually going to be probably the most substantive COD to date in terms of content, and it better be, because next year in 2023 we're obviously not getting a mainline Call of Duty game, so I think this is going to be supported for at least 2 years, potentially more. So we'll wait and see how they handle that situation. But reveal of this game is probably going to be happening quite soon, as I think some play tests are going on right now, and obviously like they showed off the game at that NFL event, and then we're probably going to be hearing a little bit about if there's going to be an alpha or a beta relatively soon as well. So I'm going to keep you guys updated when it comes to that situation, but I'm hoping to get my hands on the game soon, and I know you guys are too, but I will let you guys know everything coming down the pipeline for Modern Warfare 2 as we go on. But I'm excited for this. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section, but that's pretty much all I got for you guys today. Are there anything you're particularly excited about for MW2, DMZ, Warzone multiplayer, whatever it is, or are there any concerns you have? I would love to know your opinions down below. But have a great rest of your day, guys, and drop a like, subscribe if you're brand new before you go, and I'll see you guys in the next one.